Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, where today we'll be discussing our Masonic goals and opportunities in the craft.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Today on the Working Tools Podcast, we have our usual four hosts, very worshipful Brother David Colbeth from King Solomon Lodge number 60 in Auburn, Washington, Brother Craig Graham from Kalamalka number 160 in, I was going to say Kelowna, but that's not right, in Vernon, British Columbia. We have very worshipful Brother Steve Chung from Prince Charles number 153 in Kelowna, BC. And I'm Matt Appel from Mill Creek 243 right here in Washington. So as we were about to start recording this episode, we had a bit of a crisis of language of what exactly we were going to call it. So there are opportunities in the craft and in life for us to serve in various capacities. And there are those out there who have goals. You know, I want to be whatever, president of the company someday. I want to lead this division. I want to open my own company. I want to be Grand Master. I want to lead my lodge. And then there are other goals and opportunities that are much more interior that we talked about, that are, you know, whatever. I want to, I don't know, I have a list for myself, but it's long and embarrassing. So the things that we want to improve about ourselves that are not necessarily goals that they're Masonic related, and that Masonry is about improving oneself, but they're not Masonic related in that they're something about the lodge directly. So I guess it is common knowledge at this point that I made myself available for Grand Secretary, which is so at our next annual communication, we'll be voting on that. And I guess you could say that is a goal of mine, to serve the craft in that capacity. I think that is something that meshes with my skill set that I want to engage in.
But though it's a match for your skill set, was it ever really a goal for you that you can look back and say, you know, there was time, yeah, I saw the Grand Secretary's job and I wanted that job?
I think anyone who's seen the Grand Secretary's job would not want that job.
So it wasn't really a goal then. It's an opportunity that's been presented.
It's a good point. It's an opportunity to serve that has been pointed out to me. I'll phrase it that way. So yeah. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't know that I can remember a time when I first joined when I was thinking I'm going to be master someday, but I think that was about as far as my aspirations went at the time. And yeah, I mean, you know, who wants to have to go to all those lodges and wear that purple stuff? That doesn't sound like fun.
So, but here's the thing, Matt, because I've thought about this since we were deciding on topics. Is this entirely organic, the way that this happened, or, you know, like just come like one day you decided, oh, I'm going to pursue the Grand Secretary's office, or were you sort of drafted into the position? Like, did people approach you? Like, how did it kind of come about?
That sounds like a dangerous line of conversation.
Well, let's do it.
It was sort of both. I mean, the Grand Secretary was not. I mean, obviously he's elected not to run this or make himself available this year for the office. So it was known that was the case. So I don't. But yeah, I can't. Like I said, I can't say that I've ever sat back and twiddled my thumbs or not my thumb, steepled my fingers. That's what I'm trying to say, and thought, you know, oh yes, someday I will be the Grand Secretary, and then things will change around here. It's an opportunity that was pointed out to me, and that I am going with, and I'm very uncomfortable all of a sudden talking about myself so much.
Yeah, okay, but think back to like when you became the DDGM, because you're past DDGM, right? And was that ever a goal when you joined Masonry, that you know, you wished one day that you would be the DDGM, or was that again something that got presented and selected?
Yeah, I don't know that So in District 2 here, we have a sort of a deputy resource team where the old deputies and a couple of guys from the different lodges all sort of help out the current deputy in various capacities, organizing events or just offering advice and that sort of stuff, offering him terrible advice, things like that. And I got to be on the education team, we call it, and I got to be on that group. And as part of that group, I got to know some of those guys pretty well and the past deputies and stuff. And I sort of thought, yeah, I could probably do that. Like, I don't know that I ever thought to myself, yeah, someday that's going to be me. But in retrospect, the ed team is kind of a farm team for the district. They pick guys who they think are good masons and are good workers and that sort of stuff, and who best can work and best agree. And that's who they recruit into this ed team. So it sort of becomes the farm team for, hey, who's going to be the next deputy? Well, let's look around here, kind of thing.
And what about you,
I can't say
David?
that was a political goal of mine or anything like that. It just sort of, it became, you see somebody doing it up close and you go, I could probably do that. But I don't know that I was salivating for the job.
When did you, but you, like, on the Grand Secretary side of things, you've been in a role. Yes, I'm going to keep poking.
I was going to say, why did this become interviewing me?
You've been in the assistant role, basically, or helping out role for a couple of years. Has it been a couple of years?
Well, I've just been the assistant grand secretary this year, but yeah.
But you've been down there helping for more than just this last year.
Yeah. It's been a year and a half now. Yeah.
Has it only been a year and a half? Okay, it seemed like a little longer than that, but so there's a not only familiarity but also an education piece, and then learning about the role, and then so it's like you said, maybe you didn't aspire to be grand secretary, but it's certainly, you're being quiet, you're not filling in my gaps here.
It fits in his skill set.
Well, and I actually would say it's kind of
sure.
Similar to the thing with the ed team, where I've worked in the office for a year, and I sort of looked around and I learned some things, and I kind of said, it's not outside of the world of possibility that that's something I could do. Again, I don't know that I was waking up in the middle of the night going, yes, I will be the grand secretary. But it's, I've been in jobs where I've looked around and gone, I do not want to be involved with that. I do not want to stay here and that sort of thing. And then this is not that. This was an opportunity that I got to work in the office for a year or so. And then Clint said he wasn't going to make himself available again. And I could see myself doing it. So.
All right. So then everybody raise your hands if you had hopes and dreams of one day becoming the most worshipful Grand Master.
So, I mean, no, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I've dreamed about, if I were Grandmaster, I would do X, right? Everybody has that thought, right? If I were the one in charge around here, this would change.
I think about that all the time. No, sorry.
Right.
But the beginning, I was, my mentor was Al Jorgensen, who was past Grandmaster. Mm-hmm. And so I saw him in his leadership role, even being past Grandmaster, also past Master and all that. So I saw in him and what he talked about, and how all the people, we had other people involved and stuff. And I was asked to be part of Grand Lodge stuff for pretty early, but in the very beginning, I was either a junior deacon or senior. I think I might've been junior steward, because I was juniors. I was junior steward and then junior deacon. Well, I was only junior deacon unofficially. I was only filling the role, and then I went to senior deacon. Sorry. But pretty early on, within probably the first year, I just went to Al and I said, so I see how this thing works. What does it take to be Grand Master? And he smiled and he sat me down and he explained to me what it would take. And I went, oh, okay, that's a much more expensive. That was the big kick. Much more expensive than
the balloon got deflated right there.
It was certainly a whole different. aspect of just being a good Mason and working through leadership. I mean, I was already planning to go up the line and to be worship master in 5 years, whatever it would be. And so I knew that was going to be work and all that. And I didn't know anything about, I was brand new. I didn't know anything about DDGMs. I didn't know anything about anything, all that stuff. But I just was curious because had been it. So I'm a very curious person. I ask a lot of questions usually of people, sometimes annoyingly. but I ask a lot. Matt's backing up into the bushes. I ask a lot of questions, and whether that's good or bad, some people don't like me to ask questions, but I ask a lot of questions. I mean, Bill Miller, who was past Grandmaster and past SGIG and all, he was a member of 150 plus organizations. We were at a conference of grandmasters in Vancouver, actually, 12 or 15 years ago. And we were riding up the escalator, and he's somebody that you would never want to play poker with because he has a straight face and he doesn't talk a whole lot. I mean, without being asked. Anyway, we're riding up the escalator, and I was peppering people with questions, and he kind of turned to me and said, "You ask a lot of questions." And I said, "Is that okay?" He said, "Yes, keep asking. So I always have felt okay with asking questions. And again, sometimes I ask questions of people that they don't want me to ask questions about, like Grand Lodge stuff and other things. And like, come on, Colbeth, don't ask, how my feeling is often if I'm curious about something, somebody else is probably curious about it, but they may not be willing to ask the question.
Right. Yeah. It was kind of like a DDGM school. They were trying to get participation from the audience, and nobody was really wanting to answer the call for it. And it was like, well, I already know the answer, but I'll put the thought out there just to get people engaged and thinking about it, right? And which led into other things, which funny enough, I had no idea about, right? So it kind of worked out good for me that way. But I get what you're saying there. You got to really be inquisitive to peel back the layers, right? And
there was an underlying current that said too, don't ever ask to be on a committee, or don't ever ask to be Grandmaster or to be DGM, whatever. Well, if you don't ask someone about it, how do you know about it? How do you know what is needed or not needed or whatever? And so I tell people, I say, ask. You don't go around saying, I'm going to be the next deputy, or I'm going to be the next Grandmaster, I'm going to be whatever. You don't go around saying that stuff. But if you want to understand how it works and what's involved and what might be needed to prepare for it, ask those questions.
Yeah. Well, Connor Massey, his goal is to be the youngest Grandmaster in BC, right? And one day he'll work his way there, and whether or not he becomes the Grandmaster when he's the youngest one, who knows? Because life changes, work has changed. It's taken him over to Vancouver, to the mainland now, right? So again, change for him and so on. But thankfully, there's lots of Freemasonry in the mainland, right? For him, so that's kind of good. But what about you, Craig? Did you have any aspirations for anything, whether Worshipful Master, DDGM?
Well, it's likely that I will be installed as Worshipful Master in November of this year at Kalamalka. And I consider that to be unfinished business because I went all the way to senior warden with my mother lodge, and then I had to step back because I had a career change, and I knew that I would be away from town and then unable to sort of commit to a regular attendance at the meetings. And then the lodge folded up within 2 years of that point. Anyway,
but back then in your mother lodge,
yep.
Right, when you were a new Mason, that was a goal of yours then, to become Worshipful Master of your lodge.
When I joined the line, I accepted the fact that I would become Worshipful Master, and I didn't have a problem with it. And I have that same attitude now. It's just that I'm 20 some years after that. Like I said, I kind of consider it unfinished business. So I haven't thought past that point though, because I have a year ahead of me as master and to lead the lodge and to set the program. And so I haven't even really spent any time trying to figure out what it must be like to go through DDGM or join the Grand Line and go from there. Or, like you say, put my name in for junior Grand Warden and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll think about that later once, but once I get past next year, that's, that I just want to focus on what's ahead of me right now.
Right.
Steve, didn't you say one of the shows we did in the past that your DDGM process is a specific round robin, whereas you can't be elected from a lodge or
Well, so okay, so there's the way it's supposed to be, and then there's the way it's been traditionally done here. So it there's actually, and there is no real supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay. There is nothing that is laid out as this is the way it is. Okay. But what is most common is the best man for the job in the district, right? And but our district has been doing it in a rotation but you see, rotation started when every lodge had 50 to 100 active members, and there was a lot of guys to go through, and in order to have more even representation throughout the district at the Grand Lodge level over time, was to do round robin, and which made sense. But now we're our numbers are not that great, and for clarification for the listeners, every year the past DDGMs get together and put together a list of a few names to recommend who might be the best candidates for the next year, right? And so those names are supposed to be put forth by the current DDGM to the junior grand ward, or to the next ingoing Grand Master that they're selecting for, right? And so it's generally not a past DDGM. General rule of thumb is it should not be a past district deputy Grand Master. But now, when we're looking at, we need to find the best guy for the job and who's going to do the job, rather than being a paper DDGM, which is you're just there for the pomp and pageantry and the ceremony, right? You're a ceremonial DDGM. They want the guys who are going to do the job. So it sounds like you could put, if the only guys that are available, and whatnot would include past DDGM, then maybe that guy gets put forth now. But up until now, it has not been. You're supposed to find somebody who has not served as a DDGM, right? But
is your term still? Is it 2 years or 1 year?
It's 1 year. You spend 1 year as a designate now, and
and then it's only 1 year. You don't get appointed for a second year. Like in Washington, it's technically 1 year, but it's 2 years. It's almost automatic 2 years unless you do something wrong.
Yeah, well, you got a year of being designate, and then you're the DDGM, and then you're done.
Yeah,
right.
I like that idea of a understudy, basically.
Yeah, well, you go around and you learn the job. For guys who were not very active before, it's a great preparation tool to have them shadow the DDGM. They can create his lists for his suite when he has his official visits, and get to know people and understand the process, right? For those of us who've been around a lot longer and been to a lot more events and seen a lot of these things, it's not as much of a learning thing as it is making sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's, right? So that you can do the best job that you possibly can, right? That's what it's like up here in BC, anyways. I'm excited to go in June for my first round as a DDGM in District 9. I never really actually had any goals or aspirations to do anything more than being the worshipful master of my lodge. I was a past master counselor 2 times in Beaver chapter in DMLA. So I knew what the job was like and what it entailed, and I looked forward to that. That would have been my main goal in that. Um, but one of the questions that was posed earlier was, what are we going to do with the rest of our Masonic life? Right now, this is going to be an interesting roundtable on that one. But yeah, my Masonic goals to do for the rest of my Masonic career would really be to just maintain a standard of ritual and do ritual work throughout my district wherever I can, because to me that's the part of Freemasonry that I really enjoy. When I can give a lecture and make a connection with one of the brothers I'm delivering it to, so that they actually get it and retain something, or it's impactful to them in a way. Um, that I get a personal charge out of that, right? And I really enjoyed performing good ritual, right? And so uh, if I can do that and mentor people and coach people in the ritual side of things, that would be my I guess goals for things to do with the rest of my Masonic career afterwards. Right. Apparently, for the whole year, your DDGM, you're not allowed to do ritual work because how can you evaluate them when you're doing it with them, right? So they say you're not allowed. It's going to be weird, man, sitting on the sidelines and not necessarily participating in some of the degree work and whatnot or installations. It's going to be weird.
That's pretty well. Our DDGMs, or our deputies of the Grand Master, if you will, that do a lot of ritual work in general. They're asked to preside in installations, actually, specifically, and that sort of thing. I find it interesting that you are dissuaded from doing that.
Well, they explained it that your job as the district deputy is to write reports and report back to the Grand Master on the lodge's health and welfare. And part of that job is to assess their ability to do ritual work and do it from memory and etc. Right? So I get how you're kind of, if you're participating on the degree team, how do you not say good job degree team, right? Whereas if it was just an okay job, you might not say good job degree team, right? And you're not as impartial. So that's why they try to encourage that.
There, I so this is completely off topic, but I am recalled of a comedian I like, and he was talking about the State of the Union address and how he would like it if it would be like in a sports movie where the coach comes into the locker room and he throws his drink against the wall and goes, "What the hell are you people doing?" And that sort of thing. And I can just see Steve, someone messing up their ritual and Steve just throwing his cup of coffee across the festive board. And
Yeah, actually, Karsten and I, we have these faces made up, and they're the two old guys on the Muppet Show that sit up in the balcony, and we're gonna one day when we're both sitting on the sidelines. Now we have to find a day. Right now, we made these back in 2012 when I was the immediate past master of the lodge, right? And we were gonna sit there one day when we both had no jobs, and that's not the way we did it in my day, right? And hold those things up in front of us, right? But we have yet to find a meeting where one of us or where both of us did not have a job to do that night, right? And it's I mean, that's 2012, man. We're talking a long time ago, right? So,
Do you guys do your formal inspections of lodges, or is it just ongoing?
Well, I don't know what do you mean by formal?
I thought it used to be that there was like an inspection night that you would come in and you say, "Hey, Lodge XYZ, or, Prince Charles, you're going to have on next Thursday, whatever your next stated meeting is going to be our inspection night," and you would go as the DDGM, and maybe your suite would come, whatever, and they would perform a degree, and you would assess their ability to do all that, or is it just an ongoing thing?
It's just an ongoing thing. You're supposed to attend a regular meeting, and see that they can open and close their lodge, and do it from memory work, no books, and you're supposed to try and attend a night where there's a degree, right? And so that they can exemplify the degree. And
do you have an official visit night?
Yes, and that's then there's the official visit night. I mean, there's also a night you're supposed to go and arrange to go through the books, and make sure that there's profit and loss statements, and that they're
that's not your official visit.
No, I mean, you can do it that night, but that night's usually long enough anyway. So mostly they do those things on the side on a different day, is what I'm told, because it's much easier to just say, hey, get together with the worshipful master, the secretary and treasurer. You go through the minute book, make sure they're keeping records. You go through the financials and make sure they're keeping records, and there's history, and you go through the porch book, and you see that their lodge is healthy, that they're always meeting quorum, and so on, right? And then you have to write a report to Grand Lodge on it, right?
Quorum. You have a quorum?
Yeah, we have a quorum. You're supposed to have 7 members to open a lodge here.
Oh, okay. Well,
right.
Oh, is that?
And 5 of them, I think, are supposed to be original members, not
not visitors.
Yeah, not visitors. Yeah.
So you're required to have no less than 7 members attend. I mean, what if you were opening up on a Master Mason degree? Or
yeah, that would still apply.
Interesting. Okay. I don't think we have that rule, do we, Matt? That there's technically not a minimum. I mean, I guess you'd have to have officially at least 3, right?
Yeah, 3 to open on the Master Mason degree. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting. The code's silent in that area, isn't it? I mean, and on a number of members required to be present. I can't recall in our Constitution that there's a minimum requirement other than the standard degree requirements.
Yeah, as far as I can think, it's 3, 5, and 7, and the master has to be there, or the warden, and or a special deputy, and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah, so in our jurisdiction, we're way off field here, but in our jurisdiction, the master has to be there. If he's not there, then the wardens have to open. One of the wardens have to open. The warden can't defer it to somebody else.
Right.
I misunderstood that years ago. I thought just the warden had to be present, and he could say, "Oh, Brother Joe, come over here and open for me," even though the warden's there. But no, the master can do that.
Right.
But it says
so to get back on track. So and sees how David's got the mic at the moment there, David. So what do you see as being the fulfilling part for you for the rest of your Masonic career?
Well, you know what? I think that sounds like a great place to start our next episode.
So, that's such good timing. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think we will have David bare his soul in the beginning of the next episode here.
There's our next episode.
So with that, I guess we'd like to hear about what your thoughts are on where you want to go in Masonry, and how Masonry is influencing. Also, we didn't even get to this at all. What your goals, your inward thoughts are on your goals and thoughts for opportunities in your lives related to Masonry, and how Masonry is helping you do that. That was a long sentence that I'm not sure said what I wanted it to say, but there it is. So on behalf of David and myself and Steve, and from the Southern Masonic Command, Craig Graham, we want to thank you all for listening to the Working Tools podcast. Goodbye.